Welcome to Let Freedom Ring. As always, we have security here, keeping Soapy Pre-Op out of the studio. We're not too worried about it. He's a coward anyways. Not going to come back. But my guest this week, New England independent wrestling legend, Hall of Famer.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Maverick Wild, Scott Despres. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's not really a brick and mortar building that the Hall of Fame is in. It's more of a concept.
Yeah. Hey, it is a big deal. It's a pleasure to have you. Happy to have you here. Yeah. I know we had to do some rescheduling, but happy that you can make it in.
Been nuts.
Yeah.
A little nuts.
Understandable. But let's get to know you a little bit. Okay. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I was originally born in Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
Nice.
We didn't stay there very long. We moved around a little. We moved to Lunenburg and then eventually to Westminster, Massachusetts.
Nice.
I've basically lived in the same house at this point. When my parents went to get divorced, I bought their house. We moved there when I was 10. And then I moved out for several years. And then when they went to get divorced, rather than let them fight over it as an asset, then I just bought the house.
Awesome.
So I live in the same house that I have. It's about 250 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty unusual.
Nice. It's
old and big and rickety and unusual. It's kind of like the guy who lives there.
Yeah. But it's home.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Now, we asked on the show, we know that you are a professional wrestler, but what's 3 things that everybody should know about you?
Well, since we're in New Hampshire, actually, I spent a lot of time, even outside of wrestling, in New Hampshire. I worked for my father's roofing company, and you were telling me when I was scheduled to come here, you go, it's Merrimack Town Hall, and I know where like all the town halls and stuff are in this area because I've probably bid roof work to them publicly years ago. So I mean, there's that. I never wrestled in high school. We didn't have a team.
Okay.
No, I asked about it, and we had no wrestling in high school. We had no wrestling team in high school whatsoever. So I never wrestled before that point.
I did wrestle in high school.
And I know you're a softball player.
Yeah.
So I was an okay baseball player at one point in my life, sort of. I could hit the hell out of the ball, but if I tried to catch a pop fly, it looked like I was trying to catch a piano. So yeah. And they don't really have designated hitters in high school. So.
No, unfortunately, you can get one in softball though.
Really,
you'd be an EH.
Yeah.
There's an extra hitter. So if you ever want to come down,
I would have to hit the ball really, really, really far because I run really, really, really slow. At this point in my life.
But the thing about softball though, it's like all different.
Yeah.
We got Ken, shout out to Ken Nagel. We call him the legend. He's been playing. I think Ken's now 64. And still moves like well. It's crazy. And I know Ken loves shout outs, so I'm giving Ken a shout out. But sticking with the theme of the show, which is Let Freedom Ring, what does it mean to you to be an American? I know it's not an easy one.
What it should mean is the whole entire country was based on the theory of it being a melting pot. So you would think that the last 20 years of political arguing and infighting would be totally contrary to what this country really represents. I mean, it sucks. You can't have an opinion without somebody thinking you're stupid. But that's what this country was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a mixing of ideas and ideals, and we just seem to be getting away from that. And that's not a left wing or a right wing thing. That just seems to be people can't. They don't seem to be able to argue without demeaning anybody. But ideally, that's really what the country should be. It's supposed to be a mixing of all ideas and all races and everything just seems to be an argument right now. It's hard to watch the news. It really is. It's depressing. Yeah,
I agree. Do you think social media plays a role in that?
Yeah, because you're totally anonymous, and I used to fall victim to it sometimes too. Or you're not totally anonymous, but let's face it, it's not like it's not like I'm sitting there. Up yours, Dan. I don't like Donald Trump. Blah, 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 blah. It's like you can say some of the nastiest things possible as long as you don't set off, I don't know, I've been landed in jail a few times myself with the Facebook jail. As long as you don't break their community standards, I guess is what they call. I mean, but that's a whole range of just you know, social media just seems to be a lot of times, it seems to be a lot of people just make fun of each other.
Yeah.
You know, which is fine to a degree, but, you know, if you can't take a little, you know, can't get them a little broken every once in a while, but at the same time, it's just they treat each other very poorly on it. I really do. I really think they do.
I 100% agree, but you know, now it's gotten to the point with Facebook is your friends came and bust your chops. Someone's like, "Hey, what'd you say this kidding on your post?" And I already got a warning.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, really?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I try and keep it now to like fart jokes, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, and I'm sure that's violating some community standards someplace. You know,
They'll warn you.
this fart joke was measured and judged not true. I don't know.
It does get ridiculous though, because I didn't know what a troll was until social media. And you have all this trolling. And I like to troll my friends.
Yeah.
I just try to stay away from doing it to
too.
my people I don't know.
Yeah,
You know.
you can't abuse your friends. Who can you abuse?
Yeah. No, very good point. But no, great answer. We get a lot of different answers on that, and it's my favorite question. We got fan questions for you, but I want to talk about your wrestling career a little bit because you've done a lot. What made you want to become a professional wrestler?
I've told this story a couple of times. My brother Danny was actually a very big professional wrestling fan, and he got hit. It's a weird story. He got hit by a car on his bike, so he was in the hospital for about 6 months straight. And so to help keep him entertained, my parents would bring him wrestling magazines. Now, being from the Northeast, and this would have been in the early to mid 80s, it was all we'd ever seen really is the stuff out of New York, the WWF / now WWE. And then all of a sudden we're opening up magazines and we're looking at things like, we didn't know there were things like territories, and they still existed at this point. You know, they were kind of on their last legs, but you know, it was like, who's this guy named Jerry Lawler in Memphis? Who is this guy Abdul the Butcher? And why is he covered in blood? What is going on with this thing?
Yeah.
And it kind of piqued my interest because I did like wrestling. You know, I was a big fan of Bob Backlund and Tony Gurria when I was a kid. Now I'm aging myself, of course, but I was a big fan of that. But really, I didn't really gain any interest in doing it myself till I started seeing, boy, there's some really different stuff out there. It's not just, Bruno Sammartino at 265 pounds defending it against a 350-pound monster. And good matches, but slow and plodding, let's face it, And there was more out there than that, which, more suited my taste.
That makes sense. I mean, because Backlund, he was like the champion right before. Then it was Hogan. Well, no, Sheik and then Hogan.
Sheik and Hogan, yeah. They used the transitional thing with the Sheik. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, Backlund came back as like what they call him, Buddy Howie Howdy Doody.
Howdy Doody, yeah. They used to call the managers always used to call him that too.
Yeah.
It's actually a funny story. When I used to do. For about a year, I did jobs on the road. That was about 92 to 93, I think, and I actually my looks used to get compared to Bob Backlund at that time.
Yeah.
The point where the guys were calling me Bob Jr. And I actually did my first. It wasn't the first one I went to, but the first one I appeared on. I did a Raw. And it was with I wrestled Bastion Booger.
Oh, wow.
And the entire crowd, it's the Manhattan crowd. It was at the Manhattan Center. They're all chanting at me, Bob Backlund Jr., Bob Backlund Jr. And I remember looking at Jerry Lawler and Vince McMahon at ringside, and they just gave me this weird look, and I was just like,
yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Bastion, but I do remember Bastion.
Yeah, he was from Michigan, but he was trained locally actually by Killer Kowalski.
Did you? Oh, really?
Yes, he was.
I didn't know
Mike
that.
Shaw was his name. He was good friends with. He did the initial wrestling classes with like Jeff Costa. I think he was there like about 6 months before he was.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where Jeff met him at Killer Kowalski's.
Because I do have a question coming up. But so did you? We'll talk about this in a second. Did you do multiple appearances on Raw, or is it just that one time?
I think I only did one Raw. Raw was just kind of coming into the swing at that point. A lot of it was syndicated at that point.
Yeah.
Which were, oh my God, that was a long shows.
Yeah.
Very long, tedious shows featuring a lot of guys like me that you never heard of getting mangled for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And, they were long shows.
Yeah, because I remember Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. How did you become a wrestler? How'd you get into it?
So these things barely exist anymore. They used to be called bot shows or paid shows. And Killer Kowalski was pretty much the master of them in this area. He ran his wrestling, I think it was IWF, and so yearly he would do it in Gardner for the Police Auxiliary Fund. And so I went to the matches one time, and I just hung out, and I saw two guys on wrestling on the card. It was Brian Walsh and Chris Duffy. Chris Duffy has since passed, unfortunately. Brian Walsh was like really good, and these guys were having a really good match. So I just approached them after the match. I said, "How do I get into this?" Because wrestling was very different when I started getting into it. That was probably about '87, maybe even early 1988. My timeline's getting a little screwy. I've been doing that a lot, But things were different then. It was harder to get into it. I mean, you could probably drive 5 miles up the street here and now find a wrestling school.
It's great. There's one in
crazy.
Manchester now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got into it, and really I trained privately because I had tried before to get a hold of Killer Kowalski, and back then, let's face it, he could afford to be a little more selective. So my pudgy, zit-covered self sending him pictures, going, "I want to be a wrestler." He must okay, sure, pal. Okay. But that was how I, back then that would have been considered what they would call outlaw, getting into it, But I did. That's how I got into it. Then I hooked up with some matches down in New Bedford. I happened to meet up with guys like Scott Taylor. Not usually much of a name dropper, but he broke in around the same time I did, and doing basically the same matches around the southeast Massachusetts area, because that was really the only area that featured anybody that was running a decent amount of shows,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
that's how I got into it.
Oh, that's awesome. What was your favorite part of being a wrestler? Or still, because I've heard that you've thought there's chances you might come back, right?
No, I can't come back.
Okay.
No, I can't. My favorite part of the wrestling, for all the goofy stuff that I did, was really the physicality of it.
Yeah.
I was an okay athlete. I was never a great athlete, but I put a lot of effort into it. There was a period in my life I was in quite good shape. I hit. My wife tells this story because it makes me look bad. She likes to makes me look bad. So, anyways, I told her I'm going to do this for 10 years and I'm going to get out of it. Okay, so a little over 10 years had passed, and I was my back was already killing me, my knees were already killing me. It was about 30 at that point. I'm like, well, if I really do want to keep doing this, I have to get in much better shape because this is taking too much of a toll on my body. So I dropped about 55, 60 pounds. And there was a period basically from 1997 to about 2004, 2005. I never really weighed over 180 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Which a lot of people kind of surprise people, but it's when you're in that kind of shape, even if you're not all that big, it makes you look bigger. It does. Plus, I was always so intense. I was almost constantly to flex. Hey, the veins are sticking out of your neck. They always do.
That's to maintain that though. Did you have a very strict diet and things like that?
So I have. Every wrestler in the world is unusual. I am unusual for a wrestler. So I told you I moved to my parents' house.
Yeah.
When I bought it, the thing was, my father, years before that, in probably the really early 80s, had gone out and bought out a couple of gyms worth of equipment. They were going out of business, and he threw it all in the cellar. So I would get up early in the morning, but not too early at that point in my life, because it was right at home. I would work like a maniac. And really the only dieting I was doing was okay, we're going to keep it 2,000 calories or under.
Oh, wow.
And pretty much, I think it was an Olympic swimmer. I don't know which one it was. But one time they were reviewing his diet. He was eating Doritos and pastrami subs. I was like, how do you do that? You're an Olympic athlete. And he basically, what he said was, if you get the fire burning hot enough, anything will burn.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I used to work on. Also led to a lot of injuries because it was very, very intense.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Now, what was your least favorite part about wrestling?
I some people talk about politics. I didn't, not so much, it wasn't so much the politics I avoided. I like the personal squabbles between people. I would be like oblivious to that. You know, 'cause, you know, you have to realize that a lot of these guys run in the same circles, so they're very friendly with each other, and sometimes not very friendly with each other. And sometimes it's like a married couple. You know, they get behind each other's back and they say some nasty things about each other. And you know, I didn't enjoy that part of it, so I was very like oblivious to it. You know, like the personal element to it. I just always was. You know. So sometimes I would be like caught blindsided by certain personal situations. You know, I just didn't know how to deal with them at all. I really didn't. You know, nor did I care to frank with you, because it wasn't what I was there for. You know. Yeah,
because it's kind of like, well, it's like I mean, I run it in that now. This is not professional wrestling, but even with softball, you're like, well, I don't want to play with so and so. I'm like, I don't care. Just go do what you're supposed to do. And
yeah, it's amazing in that regard. The older we get, the younger we get. You know? I ain't playing with Billy. Stole my Transformer.
Yeah. I mean, because too, like when you say that too, like because obviously the independent wrestling scene is like, you look at WWE or whatever, they're gonna book who, or they're gonna put on who they think is gonna make them money. Mm-hmm. Does it happen sometimes that like people just don't put people on shows because they don't like them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, by God, yes. Oh, yeah. I probably did it myself when I was running shows. I can't think of any specific names, but there's people there I don't like personally that are fine professionally that I just... You know, when you're running these shows and really you're using a lot of guys, when you're on these local shows and using a lot of guys that really don't have any name value.
Yeah.
You know, not that you go out of your way to use crap, you know, you want to use good guys, but you know, if they're gonna be a little rough in the locker room and make problems, I prefer not to have them around. I don't care how good they are. Yeah. You know, really, it's not worth it. You know, because that one person could be the best wrestler in the world, and he just brought 20 other people down. So what's the point? No,
that makes sense. Would you bring someone in that you might not like, but you know it's going to get people in the door?
Well, for a one-time deal or a two-time deal, it's wrestling. It's, eventually, you know, you can't always end up in the red on the you know, you can always have a loss. Yeah. You know, you can be as wonderful as you want to, but eventually you gotta make some money at it.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I tried it for a couple of years and didn't. So that's why I'm not doing it anymore. You know.
Yeah, because we had Scotty Slade on the show before, and I'm like, how do some of these companies, because we even said, like, how does Limitless bring in the names that they do? Like, how much, like, it's just crazy sometimes that they're able to afford that.
They must have a formula that works for them, because they do shows like that. Northeast Wrestling does shows like that, and then what's the other one? They haven't, is it Beyond Wrestling?
I know that,
I consider that the same kind of, sorry if somebody is listening, I don't like that song. No offense. That's how I look at those same three places the same way, and that's not bad either. It's just, you know, they found a way to pay what would have, let's call them alternate names. Yeah. You know, and again, that sounds bad, but you know, it's like people like me, the general public may not have heard of, but somebody's really intensely into, wow, you know. Farmer Sludge from Kansas City, Missouri. That guy, I just saw him have a 4.5-star match with Izuko Saidi. And okay, awesome. That's great. Bring your friends.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, sometimes it's just, you know, and then Chaotic brings in some names too, but they're very big into having their own people.
Yes,
you know,
yes, they are,
which is fun, and they create their own fan bases.
Because they would do it occasionally when I worked for Chaotic, but not very often. You know, they were more about reaching out to. At that point, they were more about reaching out to other like training schools, like the one in Delaware for what's the one that runs that tournament every year?
Oh, are they still
Super
around?
8?
Super 8.
I think they are. They were out. I think it was owned by a guy named Jim Kettner, I believe his name was, and he sold it years and years ago. And I think they're still around. And they used to be basically like trade-off guys with them and a few other places. So that's what they would do when I was around. They didn't bring in really a lot of big names, though, very often, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the idea of just building your own wrestlers and creating your own audience.
It's a double-edged sword when you do that, because once you start doing that, it becomes expected of you.
Yeah,
when you're running shows.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I want the star. I want the star. I want the
Yeah.
star. And then all of a sudden, it's you're back down to your base crew, and all of a sudden there's 50 people rattling around in the building because you didn't give them a star. Whereas before you brought the star in, maybe you're doing 150 people, and it doesn't sound great, but you did 450 people one time with a star, and the next 3 times you did 75 people. So did you really gain anything?
Yeah, and I think it makes it tough for a company like Chaotic because they're actually producing people making it.
Yes.
Like we got Donovan Dijak on the table.
Mm-hmm.
He made he was a big star for them for the area. Then they had Casanova. Now he's gone. I know AG's come back, but it's like so they had to like almost rebuild because a lot of the guys made it to the next level.
A lot of guys made it, and then things were shut down. So it was like, well, who are we developing underneath now? We don't have
what do you do in that
anything.
position?
I don't know, because that's a totally unique situation. That's one that's never been thrown at me. I got to be honest with you. Nobody ever forced a shutdown on me.
Yeah,
not like that.
I give them a lot of credit because they have made. Chase Delmonte did a good job coming up with the Twitch show and everything. So, but I want to talk about more about your career. You had a big moment that I've seen the match a couple times. It's really cool. You got to wrestle on WCW Nitro. And now we know you wrestled on Raw. What was it like going to Nitro, and how did that happen? You wrestled Kevin Sullivan and got roughed up by Jackie, which was
I was pretty good friends with who he later became a full-time referee, Scott Dickinson for WCW, and decent friend. I knew Tony Rumble fairly well. I didn't work a huge amount for Tony, but I did work for Tony, and we got along pretty well. And they were looking for somebody about my size to go in and get tossed around by not only Kevin Sullivan but by Jackie, and that wasn't common practice back then.
Yeah.
And to be frank with you, I was very uncomfortable with it and I still am kind of uncomfortable with it. I do believe in this little bit of hook of reality of wrestling.
Yeah.
And it never seems to look all that realistic when a woman's beating up a man.
I felt like they were trying to, like Jackie eventually goes to WWE, but I felt like that was trying to be like a China in WCW.
Yes. They actually jumped ahead with the wrestling with her, with a little more of the physical activity with her. So they brought me in. They flew me into I think it was Tallahassee.
Oh wow!
Or was it Orlando? I don't even remember which town it was.
So it wasn't even in the area.
No, they flew me in. Oh,
that's awesome.
They flew me in, and so instantly the differences between them backstage and the WWF, WWE that I had done before was night and day. I must say it was extremely disorganized at Nitro.
Really?
Extremely. I've told this story many times. They had this rotation of wrestlers, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, whose name I don't even like to mention normally.
Yeah.
There was Steve Regal, there was Rey Mysterio, a few other ones, and I swear to God, my experience was when I went down there, they didn't even know what match was going on first on live TV. So I honestly think they kept those guys in reserve very often because they didn't have their crap together.
Just
they
throw them out.
They hadn't written the card down on a cocktail napkin yet.
Yeah,
so Dean and Chris, get out there. We need 10 minutes to stretch.
Yeah.
I honestly think that happened there. And if you talk to people that work there, they may not cite that specific type of thing, but they would probably say, it was very disorganized.
Yeah, because I've heard podcasts and stuff, and it's just let's throw. Especially, and they went to 3 hours too.
Yes,
which was like, I know WWE's doing that now, but that was kind of unheard of for a weekly show.
You always hear about the bad attitudes they had backstage.
Yeah,
I was like, well, how bad could it be? Within 2 hours, I had one.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I was swearing at Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I bothering this guy? What did he ever do to me?
Yeah. Now, what's that like walking out there to that audience?
Now, there's the difference. Okay. Yeah. The only live TV I had done before was the Manhattan Center.
Yeah.
Okay. Which at the time was considered big time, but I mean the Manhattan Center, what's it hold?
1,000, smaller venue.
1,000 people, maybe.
Yeah.
With the ring, maybe 800 people. And so it was totally different. Large crowds and smaller crowds have a total different energy. I mean, I was on, I think, on Nitro. It was a second match out the door. They did a dark match before me. I think it was Rick Fuller and Ice Train.
Oh wow!
And
I
they
remember
flew
Ice
Rick
Train.
in too.
Oh yeah, because he's a
And,
New England guy. Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
And he wrestled before me, and then I think I did the opener with Kevin Sullivan. And then they brought the guy who trained me, Brian Walsh. They brought him down there, and they didn't have him wrestle. Now, that would happen sometimes on WWF TV, but you'd be driving there. That was different.
It was in the
area. This was a plane ticket. This is a plane ticket. This was hotel expenses. It's expensive to bring people in.
They had so much money, they probably were like, whatever.
I'm like, why? They brought him down. I'm like, why is he here if he's not working?
Yeah.
Well, I figured it out why. I figured out why. In case I backed out and said, I ain't bumping for her.
Yeah.
Well, he'll do it. You know, that was pretty much it. He was like a reserve policy. I think I really believe that. You know,
I mean, it's a super cool story. I mean, Kevin Sullivan, another New England guy, but I don't think he did much here. Like he's from Boston.
Boston originally. I think he was
trained
maybe a Larry Santos guy. I don't know how much of the history you get into. I'm
Yeah,
not like Sheldon, but I know some of the history. I think he's probably trained by Santos.
Okay.
Who was a promoter in this area.
Yeah.
I think Paul Bowser would have been before his time. Yeah, Kevin Sullivan was a cool guy, you know, and so was she for that matter. I wasn't big on the situation itself.
Well, because I think if I recall, they're setting up for Benoit, Sullivan.
And Sullivan, yes.
And
did
Nancy already go with Benoit at that point? Because he brought in Jackie, I thought, for that reason.
Yeah, and then it got really strange with the marriage affair.
I mean, you know, you talk about a couple, like, because, you know, Jeff Jarrett and Karen Angle was always a big thing. That happened years before that.
So Chris Benoit scared the hell out of me.
Oh, really?
So they have the TVs are all catered, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't get scared by people yelling and screaming and stuff. I get scared by like little clues, like. I'm watching him eat, and I have never seen anybody look so angry at their food in my entire life. He would literally have the fork in his hand. I swear he was ham-fisting it.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It was like, I don't know if he just didn't want to associate with anybody, if that's just how he was, if he's having a bad day. But, yeah, he frightened me a little.
Well, a lot of people say, like, he wasn't the most sociable guy.
I don't know. All I can tell you is my very limited experience with him. On the other hand, Eddie Guerrero was one of the nicest guys I ever met in my entire life, you know?
That's just so cool. And the last question I just want to ask on that, and then we'll get into fan questions. That ramp was long.
Yes.
What's going through, like, that, you know, like... I swear Nitro was like the longest walk to the ring ever.
It was ridiculous. And, you know, you got to remember, too, it's a guy whose main specialty was working in Lions Club halls and BMWs. Like a ramp. You're looking at a door to go out. God. You know, I mean, the ramp was longer than most of the arenas I was working in. You know, it really was.
And it was super cool because they give you like the full entrance.
And I call what I worked in arenas, and that's a very liberal choice of words.
Yeah, and this is on YouTube if you want to look it up. It's super cool.
I try not to deviate too much from stuff you can actually look up, which is part of what actually kills me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff that I did, a lot of it was for Sheldon, and without getting into it, it sounds like some of the tapes from that period are tied up between him and whoever was booking the shows. So a lot of that stuff isn't out there.
Oh, they should get it out.
And Jeff's stuff is not out there because he didn't care to record anything. You know, the only recordings of that exists are probably somewhere in my cellar. I probably have a box of camcorder tapes, which is off a stationary camera. Because I was so self-obsessive, I would tape every match.
Well, at least now, who's the guy that used to host the show with Leo? I can't even think of his name.
Oh, Derek.
Derek, ECW original. There's no evidence whatsoever.
No evidence yet. Which is why I try and stick to the facts. You know, it doesn't take much to look this stuff up. You know, I've done more than what you will find, but, you know, I try and keep it to, all right, this is all stuff you could probably verify.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I remember he was on Leo's show a couple times, and we kept watching. I said, oh, yeah, look this guy up. And then there was nothing. And I do believe he might have done security, because if you look at his Facebook, he has pictures with them.
Yes,
But that's a big difference from saying I was trained, I had dark matches. Derek, do better in life, my friend. Accept what you did.
The only two ECW shows I ever went to, one I went to when I was just in the crowd, it was the IEBW Hall in Waltham, which is no longer a going concern anymore. And then they did the Salem Ice Arena. It was
Yeah.
right around the time
I was
they were
there.
just out of money.
Yeah.
That was the only time I was ever backstage on a
Yeah.
ECW show. It was there with Bob Evans and Alex Harry and a few other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were trying to get looked at, and Bob was making the mistake of trying to push himself on the Tommy Dreamer, as Tommy Dreamer was trying to explain to everybody why the checks are bouncing.
Yeah.
So it was did not go well.
Yeah, because they didn't last long after that.
No, it was probably like a month or two afterwards they were
Yeah.
gone. You know, you heard all the stories, all the problems they were having. You know,
I definitely went to a show. I think it was April because I got on TV. Actually, someone told me in the episode because we knew a guy that got on SummerSlam, and I was like, I actually was on TV on ECW.
Yep.
I found the episode, and I remember that night. My buddies, they went up and shook hands with Paul Heyman and Spike Dudley, but I was like behind them.
Yep.
And then Paul, and I was like, damn, I missed out.
and that was the one they had. Who's the 101 guy? He's no longer alive. I don't think it was Was it Blacksmith? I'm sorry, I'm
New
getting
Jack?
names wrong. No. He was a radio DJ, DJ on 101.
Oh, I don't.
And he
remember.
had done some wrestling before.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. I started to say his name Blacksmith. That may be the wrong guy. There are two guys I can never identify on 101.
Yeah.
You know, and one of them had wrestled before, and they actually brought him in on that ECW show in like a 6 or an 8 man tag team.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did they do multiple? Because I don't know if there was 2. I was at one of them. I know that. And the main event was like Tommy Dreamer against the Baldies. Because I remember putting Vic Grimes or someone through a table in front of us. But I can't.
I don't remember. I remember the Salem Ice Arena one. I mean, they did a lot of different places around here.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they did Wonderland Ballroom. They did Champs Arena in Salisbury. So they did a lot of stuff around here.
I wish they were.
Maybe they linked it up with. I don't know if Champs was still around. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think they were in trouble by the time Champs wasn't even around.
Yeah,
So,
very unfortunate because the crowds were big
yeah.
at the time.
Oh yeah. Yes.
All right, we'll get into some of the fan questions. I definitely want to talk about some other things too.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Eastman, and I might have to ask him for his Doink costume because I haven't been able to find it online yet. But why am I the best person he's ever come in contact with in pro wrestling?
He's not.
Yeah.
You are not, and you know it. Joey Eastman and I to this day, enjoy quite a little relationship. We would just see things, and it's probably not coming completely across here. I'm a sarcastic jerk.
Yeah.
I really am. I love, I love to cut things up. Not serious things, but I love to cut things up and rip them apart. And so does Joey.
Yeah.
So about once every week or two, we get on it. You believe this guy?
Yeah.
Just ripping people apart, just for the hell of it. We've always had the relationship. When Joey, it was originally from the New Bedford area, I believe, or that's where he originally saw me, and then he went to Chicago, and he went out to Chicago, and he was a manager out that way for a couple of different places, and then he started sending me emails saying he was coming home, and he wanted to see if he can get a manager's gig somewhere. And I said, well, I never heard of you, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because I was never one of those guys that paid super attention to all the independent stuff going on around the country.
Well, because the internet it's not like it is now.
I've told the story before.
Yeah.
I basically said, well, I'll take you out to the ring with me, and then I said to myself, and if you suck, I'll just hurt you, and you'll be on your way. But we've always had that kind of relationship. He's an extremely creative guy.
He's always entertaining.
He has no filter whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know how he maintains a real job.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, I have a poor filter. He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anything is just likely to fall out of his mouth. Yeah. It just is.
He's been on the show before. He is a great guy.
I love Joey. I always have.
Couple questions from Dave Fournier. We'll kind of go through these a little quick.
Yep.
Who's your toughest opponent you've ever had in the ring?
I guess that would be defined tough. I mean, you would think if he's talking about the best ones are almost never tough. The best ones were always easy.
Was there anybody like super stiff that was just kind of like, man, I can't wait till this is over?
In my head, no, because my thought process was always, I'd rather have you hit me hard and have it look good.
Yeah.
However, I did run into people that hit you really hard. That it still looked horrible.
Yeah.
There was, and I don't crap on many people live, but there was a guy in this area named Joel Davis. He was wow. His stuff looked like crap, and it hurt like hell too. It's like that's a unique combination.
Yeah.
He was I don't want to throw too much shade on somebody on a public access show, but he's a real jerk.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
One thing, because now you say that. Last night, if you watch the Roads to the Glory or whatever the Cody Rhodes show is,
Yeah.
they had to sit down with Red Velvet and Jade Cargill because Red Velvet was upset that Jade had slapped her too hard in a promo. I've never heard that out of wrestlers before. Usually they want you to. I don't know if it was for the show.
The changes in that regard have. It's changed a lot in that regard. Let's put it that way. I would probably horrify some people if I got in the ring with them and smack them as hard as I used to.
Like I
didn't do it. I didn't do it to injured. I was pretty solid.
Yeah, but
when I hit.
Like a slap is not going to break your jaw.
No, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. I guess some guys. No, some guys when it comes to slapping and stuff like that, they didn't like it.
Yeah,
like, I never liked chops. Not because it was like there's such a thing as the right kind of pain, I guess. And I never thought, unless it was like Ric Fuller or somebody's really big gimmick like Ric Flair, unless they're really, I just, too many people used them, and it was just, that's all it became across to me as a slap. Yeah. So that's why if somebody gets slapped in the face on TV and they slapped me too hard. Like one time Antonio Thomas slapped me in the ear and broke my eardrum.
Oh my goodness.
But it wasn't a matter of, it wasn't because it was too hard. He hit me hard.
He hit you in the right spot.
He hit me, and that's always been my thing, is placement. I was like, you hit me as hard as you want to, as long as you put it in the right spot. Just don't hit me in the ribs or the throat or the eyes,
Yeah, I definitely, I just thought that was interesting last night. And I was like, are they just doing this for the show? Because it was like, it looked good when she did it. Mm-hmm. So he also wants to know real quick, if you could wrestle anybody in New England right now, who would it be?
Charlie Cashew.
Really?
Yeah.
Or he's going by something else now.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Brian? No.
I don't know. I just know, like, about almost a year ago, I went up to, I think they were just reopening the school, or they had it open, the New England Training Center.
New England Academy.
Yeah, okay. And sorry, I'm bad with names.
No,
and I went up there, I hadn't been out in a while, and he really caught my attention when I was there. He was really, really good.
Amateur wrestler himself, a good amateur.
Yes. And that was also the main reason, if I ever considered going back, I had wanted nothing to do with it because, didn't want anything to do with it. I've had enough knee replacements, shoulder replacements, my timing was all off and stuff. And I'm not the type of guy that can train people without grabbing them physically and putting them where they need to be. So I just, that's why I don't go back to it.
If they ever asked you to be like a commissioner or something like that?
See, I always avoided like microphone work,
like
the plague, which is odd because it comes out of me fairly easy. But
you do these shows, no problem.
Yeah, I always hated the live wrestling. Not so much interviews, but now how it's like skits and promos and acting. Yeah. I hated that, and I always, to be honest with you, I was afraid if I did interviews, people are going to start segueing into that. I don't want anything to do with that. I never want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Which was, I was never going to make it as a professional wrestler, not wanting to, if I was just going to avoid that like the plague. That was never really what I was aiming for.
Yeah, and I know that. I mean, I think that can be some of the toughest part of it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because you're not a trained actor.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember I went to the one-day fantasy camp and someone was like, can we come to be a manager?
Yeah.
And Fury was like, I can train you how to wrestle, but I'm not really here we're not doing a lot of promo work here. Or at the time he said that.
And generally speaking, you're expected to train and do everything.
Yeah.
You really are,
Well, let me see, because we're short on time. Oh, any memories of working with Tony Rumble?
Yeah, Tony. I like Tony a lot. I mean, Tony was he did very well for himself promotionally here. He was he had a part of his game that I wish I always had. I was always a pretty good wrestler. I was never a good promoter. I was a terrible promoter. Tony just seemed to live and breathe that stuff. If there was a way to get a sponsorship deal, or there was a way to promote his wrestlers, and he would usually have like the 1 or 2 star combo, but he used mostly New England guys too, and he did his own TV, and he did very well for himself. He didn't. Sometimes he'd stretch out from his initial area, but it was always Metro Boston area. He'd get a couple of bot shows here and there. And Tony was a good guy. He's a really nice guy to talk to. One time I had to cancel on him because my wife was sick. I felt like hell. And he just, dude, it happens. Don't worry about it,
Because, I think he's been dead for about 20 years. And I know there's a lot of tribute posts every year on the anniversary of a lot of people.
Because there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of older guys that a lot of guys look up to, but there aren't a lot of guys that this is true about Johnny Vegas as well. There aren't a lot of guys you meet where almost nobody has anything bad to say about them. Tony Rumble was that kind of guy. He really was. Yeah. And he was a bit of a hustler too, which is even weirder because I have like a natural aversion to like salesmen.
Yeah.
That's partially what he was, because salesmen always think that everybody wants to talk to them,
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
But Tony was really, really a genuine guy and a nice guy and a good promoter. And, I enjoyed working for him. I really did. I enjoyed talking to him. I think that was even more. And through him, I met guys like Sheldon and, I got kind of introduced to that crowd,
Yeah, he just seems very beloved in here in New England. Last fan question we'll have to have you back because we had a lot of questions. And
Plus, we put this off a couple of times.
Yeah. We'll have to do this again. Tim Sanek, great guest. The first heel ever that got in my face at Nashville High School. I thought I had more pictures of this, and I can't find them anywhere. Someday I will. When Mav faced Lobster Man with Butch Hobson as the referee. Any stories about that event? Because I was there. I think they did 2 events at the high school because they did it next year. It was awesome. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I actually worked with a guy they used to call him Egghead on one of the shows.
Yes, he did a senior project.
Yes.
Wrestling. Yeah.
And then the next one I think I wrestled Jeff on. That was actually at Alvarine High School, I think it is. Is that Alvarine High School? Is that
Alvarine, because we were at Nashville High, which is now Nashville
Whatever
South.
it was actually Jeff's home school.
Yeah.
So that was neat because he said, "This is my high school, and I want to wrestle you." You're talking about a guy that came through territories and stuff like that. That's kind of a big compliment. That was always my thing with working with Jeff. Bob Evans once said, and it was accurate, that he used to say that Jeff threw the compliments around like they were manhole covers, which means he didn't give many of them. So I would get one, and it meant something to me. So when he told me he wanted to wrestle with me on his high school show, I was like, okay, well that's cool. And Jeff is not as active as I was as a wrestler, and I ragtagged him a few times in a match. Frankly, I made him earn it for a change. Normally, it was the other way around when I wrestled him. I had to earn it from him, but I made him earn it. And Butch Hobson was one of the nicest guys I have ever met in my entire life.
He had the whole pride.
He was definitely a guy who'd gone through some crap. I mean, he obviously when he was the Red Sox manager, he liked the nose candy apparently. But he was. I'm sorry, a big klutz. He was such a nice guy, and he was there for everything. Just a nice guy. You talk to him in the ring, and a lot of guys in that situation get nervous, but he was just so laid back and calm. And he was so laid back and calm. I actually remember thinking, "Going, you had a coke habit?" He was a good guy, and I remember I used to do this clothesline in the corner where I would hit the guy and I would go rolling up over the top rope and land outside the ring on the ring apron. And I came with such a head of steam to Jeff, and I hit him, and I curled around so tight I actually cracked my head on the turnbuckle.
Oh gosh!
And I know it bounced his head off the back of it. And when it came up, the boss's nose was bleeding. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. You don't do that to the boss. He just took it as that's part of the lumps. Thank you for the match.
It was that day was a lot of fun. It was awesome having him in the high school.
He liked it. He enjoyed it. I don't know if you remember. He brought his little dogs out to the ring and stuff like that because that was his hometown crowd, and he was not usually a baby face, a good guy, but I liked it. I liked being selected to do that. I really did. That
was a blast and something I've never forgotten. How fun that day was.
As far as getting in, is it Tim's face?
Tim.
See, that's one thing you'll miss on a lot of the independent shows these days is a lot of guys look at it like nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows what my finish is. Nobody knows what my move is. Nobody knows what my character is. Nobody knows. I don't have Jim Ross telling everybody how wonderful I am. But this is hard to do. I always looked at it completely different. I always looked at these people have no idea who I am, so I can do whatever I want. These people don't know what I do, so I can do some odd things in the ring. They didn't know who I was. One of the reasons I'm so loud and obnoxious because I didn't have Jim Ross. I had me.
You gotta sell it.
Loud. And like I said, I didn't like to do wrestling interviews, so I just, everything was just over enunciated. And some guys probably accused me of overselling. But that was my job.
No, that's awesome. It was a great time, and honestly, I love when the wrestlers are great heels and will get up in your face. That's part of it. As long as you understand, it's a show.
Yeah.
You know. Prediction: big game, biggest game of the year. Tom Brady's returning home to New England. We got the Bucs, Patriots. What's your prediction?
If they can get pressure up the middle towards Brady, that's always the key to beating that guy. You know, if you can get pressure up towards him, not the sides. Don't send anybody around the sides. Never mind bringing somebody around the sides, because that's a risk. How many times over a 20-year period do you have to see people come storming around the right side or the left side of Brady? It just takes half a step to the right. It takes a half a step away, and burns you for 18 yards. But he's ineffective when you come up. He's a little ineffective when you come up the middle and bash him.
Really get him.
Yeah, he doesn't like that. That's usually when he gets beat. If they can do that, it could be competitive. I think their offensive line is just not good enough.
It's got to come down to if the defense can do it.
Yeah, I think the new quarterback, Mac Jones, is pretty good. I mean, I think some people's expectations of what he was going to be. I mean, you got to realize. I used to see the Patriots, I've been a fan since the early 80s. I remember sitting in a bar in Clinton, Massachusetts, watching the Patriots get their heads stomped in by the Bears.
Yeah.
I'm used to the Patriots losing. Yeah. I mean, they were the laughing stocks of the NFL before Kraft bought them. But so now you have a generation of fans, even really for 25 years, because I think you got to tack on the Bledsoe and the Parcells.
I mean, they made the Super Bowl against the Packers.
I mean, they were. So, so historically, people are not used to watching them lose in most recently. So everybody, we're just going to roll right in. They're going
to have to earn it.
It's another year before they really start picking up they may pull off the Tampa win just out of emotion.
That's all I care about. Just win that game. Because I will be celebrating.
I'd like to see them eke into the playoffs. I think they're capable of it, but they've kind of set themselves back. Yeah. But as far as this game, I don't expect a blowout, because I think Bill is going to basically send everything he can up the middle and try and stomp Brady out. Yeah. Because it's really the only way to beat him. I mean, he's the best quarterback's ever played. It's the only way anybody ever beats him.
Do you have a score prediction?
28-21.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 21-17. Patriots.
I don't see a lot of field goal. I see it the other way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm not. Some people are predicting they're just going to get killed. I don't think it's going to be that. I think you say what you want to, and some people are starting to have a little bit less of opinion of Bill, but I mean, it's just.
It's like, let the season play out.
He's really good. Is he getting? He might be getting a little too old, unfortunately.
Yeah, but he's also got to have the talent. And, He can only a coach can only do so much. All right, let's get to my favorite segment of the show. We're getting a little short on time.
No problem.
Blank versus blank. I'm gonna give you two things. You got to pick one. Tell me why. First one, and I love this question. More responsible for the success of the New England Patriots the last 20 years, Brady or Belichick?
Well, given the most recent history, I think you have to lay it on Brady, unfortunately. Really, I mean, I don't mean, okay, that's the one answer. Really, the real answer is Kraft.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the ownership was horrible for years.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of little of an avoidance, but, I'm old enough to remember the Schaefers.
Ownership is like the most important thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is, yeah.
Steve Grogan or Drew Bledsoe?
If you're asking me who's better, it's
who are you taking?
Grogan. You know what?
Okay.
It's not even a matter of skill. I'd still take Grogan over Bledsoe.
Yeah.
I've often said that Steve Grogan is my favorite quarterback ever. Doesn't mean he was the best. It's not even close.
Yeah.
He was my favorite. I admire anybody that can, as a wrestler, I admire anybody that can do anything hurt. I remember I think it was a Boston Herald, they had this giant full-length thing. It was a picture of him. It was just little bullet lines going to finger broken 3 places.
Yeah.
Broken femur, broken. He played in a full neck brace.
Yeah.
And ran the quarterback sneak all the time. He was a mobile quarterback. It was ridiculous. It was fun to watch, and the teams were so bad sometimes. It was just like every every seventh play was a quarterback sneak. It was crazy. But I love the guy. I really did. Yeah. So yeah, Grogan all the way.
Grogan.
I don't even know why I questioned it for a second. I think Bledsoe was an okay quarterback, but he wasn't. You didn't have the chutzpah, let's say that.
The Grogan. That was like the old school.
Yeah.
These two guys just had a huge match for New England All-Star Wrestling. Brian Malonis or Eddie Edwards?
I'm older. I've wrestled both.
Yeah.
I think he said something about the match. I think I shoot my mouth. I was like, I beat both of you.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. But I'm sure everybody remembers my match from Orange, Massachusetts with Eddie Edwards in front of 75 people. But who's better?
Or who would you take? If you were to buy a ticket, who would you rather see?
Probably Eddie, and
Okay.
I hate to say that because I get along with Brian pretty
Yeah.
well. Eddie's just more my kind of worker,
Yeah.
or he was, and just Brian was twice my size.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to separate how would I approach this match, and I actually had some good matches with Brian, but it was easier for me to have good matches with
Eddie.
Because it's just a little easier when they're closer to your size and they do a little more of what you do and stuff like that, But at the same time, I think a lot of wrestlers lack that ability to go in with somebody of a different style and have a good match. I think that should be in your wheelhouse as a wrestler. So the short answer is Eddie Edwards.
I have to see this match. Honestly, for me personally, personality-wise, Malonis.
Oh, personality-wise, it's Malonis.
Like he can actually. I'm not even sure I know what Eddie Edwards' voice sounds like off the top of my head.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know what Brian sounds like.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you would expect. It would be big and booming, and it's got some growl to it. Eddie, I remember being kind of a little soft-spoken.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
But Impact has loved him, obviously. All right, because we're getting short. We'll do these ones quick. Hogan or Austin?
Austin.
Yeah, hottest period. Yeah.
Hotter period. It was actually, I don't think it was as hot for as long, but I think it was a little more intense. Plus, again, I go with the guy that has I always go with the guy with a little more physical wrestling ability. And, Hogan would surprise you every once in a while, but I mean, seriously, Austin was a much better physical wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
But without a doubt.
I don't think,
it's not even close.
What would you rather watch right now, AEW or WWE?
I guess AEW,
It's been. I mean, the crowds are hot.
That's hard for me because I have a personal connection to a few of the guys there, not many. I've had a terrible habit when guys make it. I stop talking to them. I do because I don't. And they always take the wrong way. I've had guys actually tell me, "Why are you such a jerk to me now?" I was like, "I'm not a jerk to you. I don't want you to think I want something from you."
Yeah, and I think that could be a tough thing.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Like I give a lot of praise on social media to Christian Casanova because it was just so much fun watching him, and now he's on TV.
I felt like such a jerk.
I
did that Atlantic Coast show that Johnny Vegas says was retirement, right?
Yeah.
Christian Casanova was backstage.
Yeah.
Right. So, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
I treat him like he's some bottom of the first day wrestling student. I actually went up to him afterwards, apologized. I am so sorry. I am a jerk.
He's a great guy because I saw all the pictures he took with all the fans. You're just happy to see him on TV. It's just it's so cool. All right, we'll do these real quick. Better manager, Sean Gorman or Joey Eastman?
Joey Eastman's more my style. Sorry, Sean. He just is. I like flamboyant. I like a little more flamboyant. I like it a little more showy, and that's what Joey is. That Joey's insane. I always like insane.
I think I'd take him too.
Yeah.
I've seen them both. They're both like very good heel managers, but Joey's he's an entertaining guy. Christian Casanova, Carmelo Hayes, or Anthony Green also was August Gray in WWE.
I'm going to say Casanova. I wrestled Anthony a couple of times. Yeah, I'm going to call him Anthony.
Yeah.
And it was fine. There's just a little something to Cass's style I like a little better.
Faster. They're both pretty fast. He's so goddamn athletic.
Yeah, I was going to say Christian's a very natural athlete, and the rap on Green was always he worked so hard to get better. And Cass was probably a little more natural from what I could see.
It's like any sport. Sometimes you just have more athletic ability.
Yeah.
Last one, toughest one. We're short on time. Leo Connors or Sonny Goodspeed?
Honestly, I talk to him more often, so I guess I'm going to have to say Leo Connors. Sorry, Sonny. Sonny doesn't get out that much.
Yeah.
He gets out to wrestling more often, but as far as just getting out and talking to a lot of guys, I probably only talk to Sonny about once a year, which is a shame because he's a really nice guy. Maybe more than that, maybe once every 6 months.
Another guy that's always entertaining.
And not only just entertaining, what people don't remember is when he first started for Jeff, he was a really good athlete. He really was. Jeff brought him in to actually shoot with people.
Oh, really?
like annihilate people. That's what he brought him in for.
Oh, all right. Well, Mav, I really appreciate this. I'd love to have you back again.
I'd like to come
because
back.
There's plenty more that we can talk about, so we'll talk about that. But everybody out there, if you're asked to wear a mask, wear the mask. Again, we're saying get vaccinated. You don't want to, fine. I'm saying go for it. But everybody have a great week, unless your name is Soapy Pre-Op. And until next week, let freedom ring.
Thank you.